Hello, my name is Nicholas Pagano. I'm here to teach drawing. Alright, so I guess we could start with why. Why learn to draw? Why, what's the point of it all? Why watch this video? Well, I'm going to show you why. Because it's such a fascinating drawing is to me is being able to see the world through a different perspective than you would normally see it. Most people go through day to day and they kind of just look at things and they really don't understand them as much as somebody that is an artist that either draws them or paints them or sculpts them. And so there's a whole other it's like a sixth sense or something, it's another way of seeing. You could even call it observing, and that's like very like scientific. So I'd like to just maybe we can, instead of well, it is still drawing, but I think of it more as I like to call it visual communication. I might have spelled that wrong, but that's alright. So visual communication is all about, it's a communication device. It's a language. Just as English or Spanish or German is a language, it's the same thing. It's a language of seeing. So what is the different, they're seeing, and then, our language is usually, like if you think talking about other languages, like a written language, right? That's, there's, and that is very, it's writing letters on a piece of paper, and that's a different form of communication using the 26 letter alphabet or whatever, different, basically different character types, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. So that's kind of different, one's written and then one is like through seeing. So I like to think of, what if, what is the artist's alphabet? What does that consist of? And for me, I think of the first symbol, I think of like if this was, a character, like if this was, this is a line. That's like one of the most fundamental, if you were gonna think of these as like the letters in the artistic alphabet, but that would be just, just a line. And this sounds like really fundamental and really like kind of out there, but just be patient and it'll all make sense. So there's a line, and then there's, the point or the dot. We'll just call it like a point. And then you think, well, what else is there? Well, there's like a curve, right? There's all kinds of curves in this world, in nature, in the trees, but there's also, this line, right, is a horizontal line, but there's also the vertical line. So we could call this one horizontal, which means it's going like this. It's going side to side, left to right. And then there's a vertical line, right? That goes up and down, like this. So there's, so far, we have the horizontal line, the vertical line, and we have a point, and we have a curve. So now there's another line, which is really important, is the diagonal. Now, a diagonal can go in many different ways. It can ascend, it could go upwards, or it can like descend. You go here. Well, that's a horizontal, but it can go like this. It can go like that. And so it's a bit more wilder than say the vertical or the horizontal. So it's got a lot of action to it. So each one of these, in a sense, all these things are different versions of lines. So this is a horizontal line, this is a vertical line, this is a curved line, and this is a diagonal line. Diagonal line, right? So the diagonal is all about action, and it's very sharp, and it's either ascending or descending. Like it's like a mount. Like if you think about a mountain range, right? It goes up and down and up. It's very jagged. It's sharp, almost dangerous. So if you can think of the characteristics like that, and then think about the curve. The curve is it's very like soft, it's sensual, it's very like feminine. You might like think of like, fruit, or think of like a woman, like a figure of a woman is very curved, right? Compared to a male figure, which is more like broken into sharp angles. So yeah, the curve is everywhere in nature. Like nature is made up of a lot of curves rather than straights and diagonals. That's more of like a man-made thing. But so the curve is you can find that a lot in nature. Now you got the point, which that pretty much the point kind of represents a destination, an end to a journey. You could think, if we have a line, say here, you could say you can use that written language still. You can write A, and you can point B. So this is kind of like a combination of like, using written language and visual language to understand concepts. So from point A to point B, so then you can do another point, and you can do another point, and that would get you to point C, and then you could do D, and all of a sudden you have this kind of, it's starting to form almost, if I had another point, you get a point, we can go to D, and then we can go back to A. And then all of a sudden we have what is known as a shape. When all these points and lines come together, they form a shape. And so let's go back to here, because I kind of skipped this. So the vertical, right, think of it as like a pillar or a tree trunk. Something that's very like stable, that's not going anywhere. It's like a 2x4 or like a bone. Like it's strong, and it's a great strong line whenever you need structure. And when I teach drawing, I'm gonna really emphasize using straight lines over curved lines. And there's a reason for that, because it keeps the drawing in control, in line. Now, I'm not saying that curves, because what I was saying before, curves are all over in nature, and straight lines really is more of a man-made concept. It's something that we've created ourselves. But the thing is, a curve can be broken up into straight lines, and by doing that, you can create point-to-point relationships, and you can create that curve out of straights, and then you can go back, and it really reinforces that curve. So then you have the horizontal line, and the most, I think of that line as like the ocean, right? It's like that classic, when you're looking at the horizon line of where the sky meets the sand at the beach and the ocean, the water, and you have that sunrise. So I always think of that as like a calming line. But that's, it's also a very like strong and controlled line as well. So, okay, so we went over lines and we got in a little bit of shape, but that's the next thing I want to talk about is shape. So, just to review, we have, right, the vertical. Well, I'm going to erase some of this so I can get, so we can go into more of this stuff. It might sound all over the place right now, but you just kind of have to stick with me. I'm almost kind of, it's going to unfold as we go. So it's going to be a little bit messy at first, a bit chaotic, but you just got to keep listening and watch the video over a couple of times, and you'll eventually get what I'm saying. I promise. It's not hard. It's very simple. If you think of, let's just overview what we went through so everybody gets this. So there's the horizontal. So I'm just going to put H for that. There's the vertical. There's the point. And then there's the curve. And then you got the diagonal. Okay, so you can keep like a notebook if you want to keep, or just write this on whatever, or just stick it in your, I recommend like writing it down somewhere in a sketchbook. Definitely keep a sketchbook as you're going through these videos, because, keep a sketchbook anyway, because you're an artist, and that's like your anchor. That's where you're gonna learn everything. But you're not gonna learn necessarily by watching the video alone. You're gonna learn by doing what I'm saying and using the video as a guide. But this video isn't. You don't, like, let's think about riding a bike. Like, you don't read a manual on riding a bike and then pick up the bike and start riding it. It's like you have to ride that bike and experience that. So it's all about experiencing. So what I would like you to do is probably copy, even as simple as these are, just copy these down. I know everybody can draw these lines. Like, that's how simple it is. It's just these lines for right now. So let's write down the characteristics of each one of these lines. So the horizontal, let's say it's strong. Let's just say strong. Let's just have one word. You could also, you could have whatever. I want everybody to kind of come up with their own conceptions for these. Maybe like you have something better. But for right now, we'll just say that's a strong line, and it's powerful, right? So then the vertical, I screwed this one up. this is the vertical right here, and this is the horizontal. But I think you guys know what I'm talking about. So the vertical is strong, right? We got that. Now the horizontal, that is calm. Because we want to think of that as like the horizon line at the beach where the sun's meeting the water and the sand and all that stuff, right? And when we get to the curve, we can say, you know, let's just say it's nature. Let's just say nature for that, because that. And nature is graceful, right? It's graceful. So maybe that's 2 words for that one, because that's just that's everywhere. That's such a compelling, it's such a simple thing, but it's everywhere. And we can't forget about this guy, the point, which that is basically, that's pretty simple. That's pretty much just, destination. Like that's telling you where you're going. That's like a constellation point in space. Like that's like a star almost. You know what I mean? It's like the Milky Way or something. It's like up in space. All these points that the point tells the line where to go. That's the point tells the line where to start and where to stop. Right? So we'll just call that a destination. Or you can think about it as the beginning as well, because you need a point A to get to a point B, right? So, and to a point C, and so on. So then you have the diagonal. And when I think diagonal, I think action. It's action, right? Or it's dangerous, right? It's less stable. If we can kind of start to compare, right, the diagonal to, say, the vertical or the horizontal, there's this tipping effect, right? It looks like this line is going to fall over. Now I could do one this way, like this one looks like it's going to fall over, and it's going to maybe turn into a horizontal, right? And then this one's going to fall and go like that. So, all right, so that's it for the lines. I think I'm gonna end this video, and we're gonna shoot another one, and I'm gonna call that one, we're gonna talk about shape, and how pretty much how these lines, how they work together to create what we call shape. So there's line, and then the next step would be these lines create shape. Okay, that's it.